IPMNation.com.
Live from the Outpost Studios in Columbus, Ohio, you're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. Brought to you by IPMNation.com. Get ready for the gong heard round the world.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All Natural Being. Warning, All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full contact psychology with an empowering twist, a philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brian Brawdy.
Welcome, and even though we're running a little bit late, thank you for stopping by the 299th episode of the number one rated show here on IPMNation.com. You're in to All Natural Being, the gong heard round the world, broadcast as it happens here on IPMNation.com, and now multicast live on Facebook, YouTube, and over on All Natural Being, not to mention the Brian Brawdy app. But however you come to hang with us, we're always live from the Outpost Studios here in Columbus, Ohio, with rebroadcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, SoundCloud, a whole host of them. Greetings wherever you are, here in the Garden of the Mortals. What a gig, whining or winning. It's up to you and me, because life, it's our labyrinth, our shot at running the table, diving the rabbit hole as we see fit. The hell with our critics. What do they know? Your wild at the core is ready for pay dirt once you own your primal scream. That's why we're always putting your heart's highest priority, top of your list, reinstalling and reinstating the true wit and wisdom of your inner whisper. We're rebooting your robust, finding your ferocious, all in time to out-brutal the brutal. That is the cut and shuffle that fate can deal you on a daily basis, and to bring your own bold once and for all. But before we hit it this evening, hello to my friends here in the United States and Canada, Mexico, the UK, those in Ecuador, China, the Philippines, Brazil, India, Australia, Germany, Italy, France, Nigeria, Turkey, Japan, Singapore, Thailand, Belgium, Sweden, Israel, South Africa, Egypt, Puerto Rico, Kenya, the Netherlands, Colombia, Greece, Ireland, Peru, Poland. To those joining us from all over the globe, it really is great to have you with us. And I truly am fired up today to be driving your bandwagon, to be your virtual hitchhiker if you happen to be on the go, wherever you are. But as always, I'm your biggest fan, always avidly you. And before we jump into tonight's show, and it's a great one, let me ask you, why let anyone hijack your cognition? Why let anyone play you like a puppet? The days of needlessly torturing ourselves by being someone else's tool, well, they're over. Once we decide it's time to take life into our own hands. So what are we waiting for? Here's our opportunity to mortal up. So what do you say? Let's go kick in some doors. And as I say, apologize for being a couple minutes late, running behind there. I'm so excited about tonight's show that it really just the little things, right? But it's the 299th episode and a little different format this evening. I'll explain that here in just a little bit. But, we're here on the Unleash Your Legendary page and both on Facebook and over on YouTube. And what I like to think about is that when it comes time to bring your own bold, when it comes time to release your primal scream, when it comes time to tap your wild at the core, that's what we're going to focus on this evening. And we're very honored to have our good friend Lee here from Sales Copy Academy. Lee Rowley is going to be joining us in a little bit, and we're going to be talking about that. Suppose you've always thought about being an entrepreneur. Suppose you've always thought, it'd be really cool if I could start my own business, if I could have my own little gig on the side. Well, Lee's the guy that writes the copy, that creates the vision, that moves your target audience or moves your potential customer, just moves them to passion, to sit up and take notice about what it is you're actually working on. And we're going to talk to Lee here just a little bit this evening. Also should let you know, of course, I forgot to turn on the clock. Can I hit it from here and see if that works? It might work from here. I don't know. All right, well, 24 hours, we're coming. We're going to take tomorrow night, which would be Thursday. So we'll take Thursday, Friday, and Saturday off. And our 300th episode is going to be Sunday morning at 10 a.m. when we launch our 24-hour marathon. And I'm really excited about that, as you can tell. I'm still learning all the little nuances of how we're going to pull this off. But we got some really great guests. I have a clipboard of everyone that's coming. And, of course, I left the clipboard over there. So until I figure out how to move around the set, which I'll be doing through the 24-hour thing, I'm even thinking of getting a hammock, just hanging out, right? When I get a little bit of a nap, sleeping in the hammock, so I won't even leave the studio for that 24-hour period. But let me just say, I'm very excited and very thankful for all the different people that have come on and agreed to call in at different times of the day. And here's the thing. If it were just a group of friends, which we could absolutely do, everyone here in the thread, if we could absolutely just have them call in, it would be a pretty cool show, I think you'll have to admit. But what I wanted to do was also find a way of having people that could really bring value to us as a group and to everyone listening. So that's why I was so excited about some of the really cool names that will be joining us throughout our 24-hour marathon. And it just so happens, the 300th episode, we're kicking off, as I said, 10 a.m. Sunday morning, and we'll go through till 10 a.m. Monday, Labor Day morning, all with this concept of you're wild at the core, of releasing your all-natural being, and being, as I say every day, being your own best friend. And if you're tired of turning a blind eye, if you're tired of turning a deaf ear, if you're tired of putting your heart's highest priority top of the list, what? You're just tired of always putting your heart in the junk drawer, in the dustbin, in the back seat. This is going to be a 24-hour show, and it's a lead up, a ramp up, if you will, to our 81 to win, which will be the world record attempt at the longest, right? It's 80 hours and 5 minutes. So I said, well, let's go 81 for the win. 81 to win will be the longest ever live call-in radio show broadcast. So that's what we'll be working on. Henry says you need to be hanging in a basket chair just because I want to watch you try to get out of it. I know, Henry, wouldn't that be great? Well, here's something else I was thinking about. Let me say hello to everyone in the thread before we get started. I was thinking of like a climbing harness. Jenny, thank you so much for joining us. You're absolutely right, Henry. Good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining us here at All Natural Being. Wayne, thank you for all your help today. Dana Lee. And Gabriel, I hope, episode 299. Yes, and I'll tell you, Dana, it meant the world to me when you had that little Post-it note that you put up the other day that said, putting your heart's highest priority top of your list. Thank you very much. Janile, I was great. It was great to see how well your pictures are doing. And I think, did I hear you had 4 or 5 of them in the competition? Congratulations to you. Darren, hello. Nice to see you. Linda, hello. Thank you so very much for joining us here at All Natural Being. Unchain your ultimate. Absolutely. Absolutely, Henry. And as I like to say, hello to Rita. Rita, I was thinking about you today. Someone said, when you walk into a room, you just own the room. And someone said in the post, a lot like Rita does. And I said, absolutely. And I was reading an article that made me think about you. Candace says, how about a big beanbag chair? Ooh, I'd fall right to sleep then, Candace. I'm trying to find things that are a little less comfortable for me. But let me get to Rita real quick. I thought about you today because there was an article that said, I think goats are able to sense a human smile, are able to sense how cool a human being is, and they're drawn to cool people. So I thought, you know what? That's right. We could learn from the goats. And as you were saying, if you walk into the room and you have that persona, you have that smile, and you're just connected to your all-natural being, I think you're absolutely right. We can sense that. Good evening to Patricia. Good evening to Sarah. Thank you for joining us here at All Natural Being, along with Chris. Chris, thank you so very much. And Christian, good evening. Nice to see you. Hello to you as well. Thank you so very much for joining us. The rack. I know, Henry, right? That's what I need, right? What Procrustes, right? So if I can get stretched out, you're going to cut my legs off, cut my feet off. That I could use. That would be nice and uncomfortable. But that's what we'll be doing throughout the 24-hour period. And some of the other things, Kelly, as a friend of Rita's and a friend of Henry's and my family. Kelly's going to be here in the studio for an hour. But most of the rest of the time, people will be calling in from all over. So to Candace's point, why does it always seem like the people here in the thread are right here, in the continental United States, or at least in Canada and the like, but we'll have people calling in from all over the world. So we're really excited about that as well. And again, for those of you just joining us, and before we get ready to take Lee's call, it all started because of a local radio station, a Christian radio station that I went to. I just said, look, I'll volunteer to learn how to run a board. I'll wash your cars. I'll cut the grass. I'll come and shovel, snow this winter. I'm not terribly good at anything in radio. Anyone that's watched the show knows that. I'm not terribly good, but I'd be willing to barter. I'd be willing to trade, some labor if you could just show me how to work the board. Nothing. Crickets. Ignored me totally. So then I thought, great. So then, right, just as you would, I went over to another local house of worship here, and I said, you know what? Do you have a sound person? I see you have a big production every Sunday morning. Do you have a sound person? Oh, yeah, just leave us your number. We'll have them call you. Crickets. Crickets. I wish I had a cricket. I don't have I wish I had a cricket sound effect. I'd be playing it right now. Crickets. So apparently these two organizations kumbaya for everybody but me. So then here's what I said. Okay, here's what we'll do. Henry, he can rack. I will go with a hammock. Well, you know what? And I'm trying to find a hammock that won't let me get so deep down into sleep that I won't hear the alarm when it goes off, right? I'm allowed. You know what it is I'm planning on taking 1 hour in the 24 hours off, which I'm allowed to do. So I'm thinking maybe like 4 to 5 in the morning before everyone else gets up. That's what I'm looking at. But in any event, I thought, okay, no one's returning my calls. All these houses of worship go, look, we got better things to do than try to teach him how to work a soundboard. So what did I set out to do? 24-hour marathon. And yes, I will probably name the names of the churches that decided to turn their back on me. That's cool. That's well within their right, as it was with mine to go, yeah, you know what? What am I going to do? I'll do a 24-hour marathon. Oh, and what else could I do? Oh, yeah. You know what I'll do? I'll go for the Guinness World Records of the longest radio call-in show ever. Right? The current record is a really talented young lady who went 80 hours and 5 minutes. So, as I said, we're going to go 81 to win. So for me, it is an absolute adventure in something I know nothing about. I started laughing as we came on air this evening because we were, 4 or 5 minutes late? Totally my fault. Totally my fault. Yeah, just totally my fault. Right? For something you'd go, oh, Brian, really? Is that how? Yes, that was totally me. And do you know what it was? I'll show you. No, I won't show you. It's just, I have these cables. And these cables are designed to be plugged in. Well, right, not knowing any better, and running to get up into a show that I'm really excited about. Well, these cables, I have 2 of them side by side. So where did I plug the cables to? The house speakers. So I'm sitting here with my earphones and going, wait a minute, why is everything playing over the house speakers? Because, Needle Knits, you went ahead and plugged in the wrong cable. They look exactly alike. So, rookie error. And I told Wayne today on the phone, I cannot wait for this 24 hours to see what else I'm going to mess up. Right? I mean, I'm like giddy. I'm looking at it going, I wish I could start tomorrow morning. Need a little more sleep than I'm getting lately, but I wish I could start tomorrow morning going, hey, I'd really love the opportunity to go ahead and see what it is that I'm going to mess up in that 24 hours. But that is to say, I've gotten some really great people that have agreed to call in and kind of act as my pacers. So we'll be talking about things that I think are terribly important to your all-natural being, right? We're going to be talking about water purification. We're going to be talking about air purification. We're going to be talking about food purification. We're going to be talking about thought purification, right? All the toxins that we breathe, that we think, that we drink, that we eat, all the different things that we can go ahead and start to build up our own philosophical or physiological immune systems, if you will. We'll go ahead and focus just on that. So at the end of the 24 hours, I think we're going to have all kinds of really cool advice from some of the best people I've been able to find to say, okay, great, let's go ahead and implement some of those things that we learned in All Natural Being. So that's what we'll be doing. Needle Knits, going to steal that. Please do, Darren. It's yours. Henry, now that would be cool. Jenny, I would agree. We should come back. We should come back, Henry. Yes, you should. That would be great. I would love that. Shane says, hello. Hope your evening is going well. Thank you very much, Shane. Patricia says, have you thought of labeling your wires? Well, I am now, Patricia. I thought the color code would be enough, but no. Apparently one of the things I got going on now is I'm probably colorblind too. All right, let's see who our first caller is. Good evening and welcome to All Natural Being. Who do we have?
Hey, this is Lee Rowley.
Lee, how are you, Mr. Rowley?
I am fantastic. About yourself?
Well, I was so excited, as Patricia just said, hey, did you ever think of labeling the cables, right? You'd think I'd know one is green and one is white. I was so excited about you coming on this evening and some of the concept that we've talked about that I just picked the wrong cable. You know what I mean? I just plain, I'm sitting there going, why do I hear all the audio coming through the speakers? Why do I hear all the audio? All right, hold on. I have an executive producer, Lee. Hold on one second. I've got an executive producer coming in to make sure that I know. Come on over here. All right, to make sure I know which cables I'm supposed to. So it's this cable, not that cable, right? Yeah, okay. You know it already. Okay, say night. Say goodbye, everyone. Bye. Say one more time. Say bye. Bye. Okay, bye, Mr. Lee. So thank you very much. Even she knows what cables. So you're absolutely right, Patricia. I am speaking our first language, sarcasm. No, believe me, I should have color-coded it way before. Good night. Bye. Nice to see you. Thank you. I call Berlin my little hurricane of cute. So whenever she comes in, I always she's the executive producer. I like to let her go. All right. So good night, gorgeous. Patricia says good night as well. So does Jenny. So does Mr. Henry. And so does Mr. Lee. All right. Thank you all for indulging me there. Like I said, when she walks in, I like to kind of, let her see what it is that I was doing to mess up. And she picked the right cable right off the box. All right, Lee. So I don't want to hold up since I'm running a little late anyways. When you and I first met, you told me a story about how important copywriting was. And not just crappy copywriting, right? Anyone can write crappy copy. But you were talking about copy that just really moved people. And what was fascinating about me was that when you talked about one day launching the Sales Copy Academy, you talked about a story when you were going to write a paragraph or two, let's say a sentence or two, and you were going to do for apple cider vinegar. And the way that you did it, can you tell everyone what you did exactly when you decided you were going to do this copy about, right, apple cider vinegar? What did you do?
So, yeah, the product, the lady was selling apple cider vinegar capsules. And she was complaining, like, I really don't know how to differentiate from all the other ones out there because there's literally thousands and thousands of people selling the exact same thing. So I said, okay, well, we've got to come up with an angle. We've got to come up with something that connects with the exact people that you were trying to get to buy this. And so, I thought about the convenience and you put it in your purse and take it to work, and there's none of that. But what I saw nobody was talking about was how bad apple cider vinegar tastes if you're just mixing it in water or, God forbid, drinking it straight.
Ew.
And so I said, okay, I got to put myself in the mind of this customer. Let's try this. So I climbed up on the counter, reached in the back of the pantry, and found an old dusty bottle of apple cider vinegar. So I got down, looked at my wife, and said, I cannot believe I'm doing this, opened it up, and took a gigantic swig. And it tastes about as wonderful as you would think it was. As I think I told you earlier, it tasted like broken dreams.
It did. You said, I thought that was
crying.
I love that line. It tasted like broken dreams. But what drew me to you instantly was that you had a certain empathy with the people that were going to be buying apple cider vinegar that I had just never thought of before. You literally put yourself in the crosshairs, right? Not do as I say, but
right.
Not do, but do as I do. And so what kind of copy came out of that when your wife looked at you going, all right, what are you doing climbing around on the counters? And why are you swigging apple cider vinegar? There's Gatorade in the fridge, right? What did the copy come about after that encounter with the apple cider vinegar?
Well, after sitting down and writing out my reaction and figuring that anybody else's would probably be the same, then I worked that into, look, these are your options here. You can, you guys can do all these wonderful things, and our competitors' products can do all these wonderful things here. But here's what we've got over them. When you take these your throat's not going to be burning. You know, you're not going to feel like you've got hellfire and sulfur inside your throat. You know, you're not going to have the pucker face. I actually just went and looked in the mirror when I did this, and just saw the expression on my own face, which was highly grotesque, I have to say. And so I just worked that imagery into that. And anybody who's ever done that will go, yep, I get it. I know exactly what you're talking about. And that's the creating connection. That's the empathy that I'm talking about. For me, copy is about, it isn't so much about sales, it's about creating relationships, and those relationships lead to sales.
And I would think, in just having chatted with you a handful of times, we've only known each other for a few months, I would think that it's that personal relationship with the reader. So it's not really so much what you write, but what you feel the reader is going to hear. It's not what your expectations are, but what you think they're going to experience in the moment. And that's what makes it, that's why I think you're so passionate about it, right? You get fired up of thinking, how is it that another mind is going to perceive? Well, I've called you an artisan of the alphabet, right? Because you know how to put it all together to make sure that the person listening goes, man, he gets me. Or, if you're a female copywriter, she gets me. Lee, let me say hello real quick to Denise. Denise, thank you for joining us here at All Natural Being, as well as Jeff. Jeff says, Lee has an incredible gift of getting into the shoes of the readers in order to move them. I like that answer, Jeff. That's an excellent answer. Patricia says, Lee, I am getting a great image, and I identify with drinking apple cider vinegar. All right. So if we ever get it, Lee, to where Patricia comes to see us in this part of the woods, we know that we'll serve apple cider vinegar. And
can't wait.
And we'll go from there. All right. So all joking aside, one of the things that I was so excited about to have you come on is that when we talk about unleashing your legendary, when we talk about people, and you look at it now, it used to be there's a midlife crisis. Well, now it's a quarter-life crisis. They say teen suicides are up. They say opioid addiction is up. They say all these other things that cause people to be depressed about their lives. And one of the things they said was that sometimes people just have crappy jobs. They have gigs that don't grab them. They're in positions that don't touch their passion. So what I was so excited to talk to you about this evening is that suppose someone wants to become a copywriter. Suppose someone thinks, yeah, I would love to be like Lee. I love listening to LEEWords. I love the idea. Lee and I are going to be working on a podcast here before too long called Copy That Speaks. Suppose someone that goes, yeah, I really don't dig my gig. I wish I could be a copywriter. What does that mean to them? How would you suggest someone go about from, beginner to where you are now is one of the premier copywriters, I think, in the world, just so you know. I believe that about you. So what would you say to people just starting out that one day want to be like Lee?
The first thing that I would say is that you don't read good copy. You feel good copy. And that's for the distinctions that most people, even that have been in the business for years or decades, don't necessarily get, is that they're looking at it from an almost manipulative standpoint. And like, how can I get, and sometimes even trick, my buyers into, or my readers or viewers or whatever it is, into buying my product. It becomes a me against you thing where it becomes almost a game. And there are copywriters out there that relish in that. In some of the Facebook groups where they hang out, it's, there's lots of chest thumping about, how how they trick people into buying this and how they set up this sneaky funnel to whatever. Mm-hmm. That's not what it's about, and that's not what's going to last now. I mean, because there's so much information available. Everybody has just vast libraries of information right at their fingertips through the internet, and it's not hard for them to see through that anymore. I mean, we're getting, as I call deja vu. I've seen this bowl before. People are reading something, whether it be an About Me page or a website homepage or a sales page or an email or what have you, and they go, wow, this just feels mechanical.
Sure. And I would imagine that feeling mechanical, as Jeff said, isn't going to move them. He said that you have the incredible gift of getting into the shoes of the readers in order to make them move. Mechanical isn't going to make people move, or maybe it will for a little while in the very beginning, Lee, but it's most certainly not going to build lifelong relationships like what you've been talking about. It's not going to work in that regard, is it?
No, absolutely not.
So what would you say to someone like, you and I joke about reading the thesaurus. You and I joke about reading email titles. We joke about all these different things like, what are you going to do today? Oh, I thought I'd read a couple of back of cardboard boxes, right? But what would you say to someone starting out that isn't as crazy as you and I are? What would you say to someone starting out that wants to be a good copywriter? What could you add to in terms of what you just said?
Well, obviously, they need to understand the fundamentals.
Okay.
I'm not going to say that you could just, willy-nilly and just spread it. I mean, there is a structure. There are things that work, and a lot of these come from the direct response copywriters from back in the 60s and 70s and even earlier. Those fundamentals are still very valid, and they're important to know. And there's any number of books that resources where you can learn those fundamentals. The basics, I think of it as a skeleton in which you're building empathy-driven, effective, high-converting copy.
Lee, we've got a caller. Let me say hello to someone real quick if I could before you finish that thought. Good evening. Welcome to All Natural Being. Who's with us?
Hi, Brian. This is Henry. I want to talk to Lee.
You are more than welcome to talk to Lee. Go right ahead, Henry. How are you,
Henry.
sir?
How are you, Lee? How's it going?
I'm doing great, Henry. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Don't want to interrupt what you're saying because what you're saying is just fabulous. So please continue. I just want to get up close and personal here.
Okay.
So, Lee, you were talking about empathy. And Henry does, Henry writes for magazines. He's an international author. He writes and records all over the world. So Henry has a somewhat different kind of approach to writing. It's not necessarily copywriting, but I would imagine you would think that the skill set could very well be the same.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Henry, every piece that you write is intended for some purpose, correct? I mean, there's something that you want the reader to get out of it.
Henry, you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So
that in a way, yeah. To me, everything that's meant to persuade, that's meant to educate, that's meant to change people in any way, is sales copy. Because as we sell all day long. We just don't know we're doing it.
Got it. I totally get that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything you do, and the fundamentals are the same. It's going to change between what you're doing and the type of things that I'm doing as far as video scripts and emails and follow-up pages and things like that. But there's still the need to have a deep understanding of who you're writing to, and I think that goes far beyond what we in the industry would call an avatar. It goes far beyond just the basic demographics and the basic things that you think you know about your reader, and goes into diving deeper and actually finding out in their own words what it is that they're really thinking. And that can definitely be a challenge to do that. But once you have that, then that makes any kind of writing that's meant to be persuasive that much more powerful.
And then, Lee, would you say that it's more about question marks then than exclamation points? We talk about I think we mentioned it earlier in the show that I think, was it 93% of what we say isn't the words we use, it's the way we communicate it. So when it comes to writing copy or longer form, as Henry writes, are you still saying that it's more about question marks than exclamation points?
Absolutely. When any project that I do, I spend 2/3 of my time researching and 1/3 of the time actually writing.
Oh, interesting.
Because
okay.
I want to find out what's actually going on in my intended reader head.
Let me say, Dana says quickly, a deep understanding of who you are writing to. And Dana is a stand-up comedian, so she has a real sense, right? Because when she performs her copy, Lee, Henry, when Dana writes her stuff, There's a live audience. So she learns in a hurry, right? And she doesn't have the protection of a soundboard and this and that and go to commercial. She's out there live in front of a audience, and there's a would-be hecklers and everything else. So when she says a deep understanding of who you're writing for, she absolutely knows that. Jenny says the human emotional connection that pulls the reader into the story and makes it harder to leave. And let me also quickly say hello to Wilson. Wilson, hello. Thank you so very much for joining us here at All Natural Being. So if I could, Lee, what are some of the things that I know you've talked about in some of the podcasts that you've done, some of your own videos that you put up on Facebook and on YouTube and the like. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the nitty gritty? Like, what are some of the cool things? If you're thinking, all right, I'm going to take on this project, what do you do to spark your creativity? What do you do to start the process for anyone that may be listening?
Oh, absolutely. Well, to me, first of all, I am a huge advocate of the concept of the beginner's mind. And that to me means that every piece of copy, no matter what it is, that you write is your first piece of copy. Okay. In other words, after a while, copywriters get to the point where we feel like we know what we're doing so well that it almost becomes autopilot. And we don't realize that we're making a lot of assumptions in our copywriting as far as what we want to put out there and what we want the target audience to do. I'm sorry, I forgot. You don't like the word target there.
Yeah,
your intended audience to do.
Right.
I flubbed up on that one.
No, not to worry.
Right. So being able to just get into that, let go of that. I mean, I'll do 5 to 10 minutes of meditation before I actually start sitting down to do anything. And for me, it's just clearing the mental chatter, the preconceptions out of my head. I also, again, I really like to go find out more about the audience that I'm writing for. So I'll go to Facebook groups a lot of times. If I've got open groups, I can get right in. Sometimes the closed groups, you have to wait a little bit for an admin to approve you. Okay. But once you're in there, you're hearing people. You're hearing your intended audience talking about their problems in their own words, because they don't know that you're there trying to glean this information from them. Okay. It's what I refer to as ungated feedback. In other words, gated feedback is the polite stuff. That's what they tell. If you go and ask your people, your audience, what they want, they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear.
Oh, okay.
Being able to back in that and go into some of these resources where you can actually spy on people. I hate to use that word, but that's basically what it is. Then you actually learn what's really going on inside their heads and what they're really upset about, what they're really hoping for. And that paints just such a richer picture in your own mind. And for me, sparks incredible creativity in writing to that audience, because I'm sitting across the table from them virtually instead of just dreaming them up in my own head.
Henry, what do you think about that? It's knowing your audience. I think Dana could probably comment on it as well. Knowing who it is, right? Because all writing is performance, right? All copy is performance. You're trying to perform. What do you think about what Lee says?
No, I totally agree, Lee. That really is it. It's placing yourself into the audience that you're really trying to get to. That is one of the questions that I was actually hoping to be able to ask you, because my writing, pretty much everybody on this planet is my audience, because that's the attention I really am trying to make. And I know that I find it very difficult at times to really try to do that, because I've got to deal with so many characteristics, so many prejudices, so many belief systems, and in trying to pull it all into one, it becomes very difficult. Would you consider it better to break it down into smaller groups and approach the smaller group, or just continue to go at this octopus that I'm dealing with?
I'm a huge fan of niching down as far as you can with your message. essentially just there's nothing that you can say that's going to appeal to every single person on the planet. There's nothing that I can say that's going to, I could say the grass is green, and somebody would walk out there and go, no, I think it's kind of bluish or something like that. You're wrong. So yeah, it's you can't appeal to everybody, and that's where a lot of business owners and copywriters will get into trouble. Is that they're going, okay, well, I want to appeal to these people, I want to appeal to these people over here, and the people who are the opposite of them, and I'll have clients come in and want me to use one sales page to attract 6 or 7 different audiences, and it's like, look, that just doesn't work because you're talking at everybody because you're not wanting to exclude anybody else, but at the same time, it waters down your message to the point where the people who could really use it aren't getting the biggest impact from it.
Get it? Yeah, absolutely. I think I totally agree with you, and that is exactly what I'm finding is it's a very big elephant to eat, and trying to carve it up into smaller pieces is probably a bad analogy because I love elephants.
All right.
It's you got to do it one bite at a time, and yes, it is a tremendous, especially when you start dealing into the books, it becomes really tough to try to. Nobody wants to carry around a 14,000-page book, so it's.
And then,
absolutely.
Henry, any thoughts before we open up we're going to open up the phone lines. Don't forget, if you want to join us, you can call 833-462-3968. Henry, any parting thoughts for Lee or any other questions before we open up the line?
No, I really would. I got to spend some time with you, Lee. I really do enjoy what you do. I love your approach. You have just a tremendous characterization with it all, and you make everything that you're doing so individual. I admire that. That is really fabulous.
Well, thank you very much. It's always great chatting with you, and hopefully we'll get to do this a little more length some other time.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
All right, Henry, thanks so much as always, brother.
Thanks, Henry.
All right, talk to you soon. All right, don't forget 833-462-3968, 833-GO-BU if you want to call in and have a top opportunity to speak with Lee. Lee, Jeff says, love it. Use the words they use, not the words we tend to put in their mouths for them. I thought that's a pretty great point.
Very well said, Joe. Very well said.
And then also, good evening to Miss Mitzi. Thank you very much, Mitzi. Nice to see you again. Thank you for joining us here at All Natural Being. All right, Lee, something else I thought we could talk about while we're waiting on our next call was that you get a lot of people that think they know how to write copy, and then they'll call you and say, hey, I've written this copy. Could you tweak a couple words and then send it back to me? Do you run into that a lot where people think they're the expert, but that they're hiring you just to polish up the piece? But
the dreaded tweaks. Yeah.
The tweaks.
Yeah, I do get that a lot, and that's something of a source of conflict for me because in a way I feel like you're your own best copywriter because whoever you're serving, you've probably been through it or at least some version of it yourself. I mean, that's for the most part, that's the motivation that people have for starting a business because they want to help other people with the problems that they've had themselves, at least in the brandpreneur sense, the coaches and consultants and artists and authors. That tends to be the case, the overwhelming majority of the time. So they do have a deep understanding sometimes of their customers, but generally they get so wrapped up in putting everything in there that they want to. If they've got all these things in their head that they need to put in, they want to put in there, and they think all of them are relevant. It was about a year ago. I had a client that I wrote a sales page for. She just when I asked her for information, she just sent me dozens and dozens and dozens of documents, and 90% of it was just completely irrelevant. It was great for her because it was mostly about her. But anyway, so we did this thing, and I structured it the way that it should be to speak to the audience's needs and wants and hopes. And she was furious, and she was like, I hate this. I'm like, okay, well, what's wrong? She said, well, you didn't tell these people my favorite color was blue. I said, "What? Who cares?" And she's, I specifically told you, back, I think, page 831 or whatever, this thing, that, my favorite color is blue, and that's important to me. And I'm like, well, yeah, it is important to you,
right,
but it doesn't mean that it's important or relevant to the audience you're trying to attract.
And do you get that a lot, Lee, when people just like, well, I'm really good at being a copywriter, so I just need you, like I said, to put some polish on it, put a little varnish, a little shellac, right? Paint over some of the natural grain. Do you get that a lot? And then how do you diplomatically, I mean, one of the things I love about you is you have a diplomatic streak, but it's not very wide. So I'm going to imagine you just go, look, I can't help you, right? I can't. If you want to write your copy, you write your copy, but I can't help you.
Well, that's exactly it. And the way that I explain it to them is like, look, if you come and say that your car's not, you take your car to the mechanic and you say it's not running, and you can't say, well, hey, my car's not running. Could you just, polish the bumper a little bit? Could you maybe like wipe off my steering wheel a little bit there? Maybe that'll fix it. Look, if your copy is not working, if it's not converting, if it's not connecting you on a relationship level with the people that you want to work with and who want to work with you, then look, it's not working. And polishing the bumper is not going to fix anything.
That reminds me, Lee, I remember some time ago, a mechanic said to me that if he does the work, it's $100. If you tell him how to do the work, it's $350. Right? And they say, look, the real reason why it's not insurance purposes that they don't want people in the bays. It's like all these wannabe auto mechanics that walk up and tell you how to change a spark plug, tell you what they think is wrong with the timing, tell you, right, all these other things. So it was like, look, it's $100 an hour. Unless you're going to help me, then it's $250 or $350, whatever the sign was. And every time I've heard you say that in podcasts or watching you be interviewed, I think that same thing, that it's like, hey, if you let me do it, 1, it'll work. 2, it'll be super cost effective for you. And 3, if you want to help me, I'm going to charge you more, right? Because you're making more work for me.
Exactly.
Jenny says, well, it can be fun to set off to publish, let's say, a Democratic article in a Republican magazine. She says, laugh out loud, joke. So that's probably pretty true. Don't forget 833-462-3968, 833-GO-BE-YOU. Lee, I want to talk about Sales Copy Academy, and I threw the logo up on the screen now. What is Sales Copy Academy, and when can people start to get into it? What's happening over there?
Sales Copy Academy is a deep dive into creating relationship-based copy that actually speaks to your, and again, I hate to use the word avatar, but it's so overused, that speaks to your right audience, which is not necessarily the person that you think it should be. When we tend to come up with our there's all these templates that you can get that if the gurus are giving them away. It's here, fill in your target person's name and their age, and are they married, and how many kids do they have, and do they have dogs or cats, and what's their job, and so forth and so on. And then you go and you fill all this thing in, and based on what's going on in your head, and you think, okay, well, hey, I've got my target person I'm talking to. And most of the time, if you tear that page out and take it and stand in front of a mirror, you're going to see that you're creating your avatar based on you. We have a tendency to do that, and because we're making assumptions there. So what we're doing is teaching people how to actually dive in and find out what's really going on. First of all, who their target audience is, who are the people. Again, maybe not the dream person you want to work with, but the perfect person for you to work with. I mean, the person that you can help and who needs and can afford you. And so we're diving into their personalities. We're diving into what they say and how they feel and how they interact. And it's what I call avatar immersion.
Okay.
In other words, in a way, you're becoming that person for just a little bit while you're creating messaging for them. So that's really the core of what I teach, and the feedback on it so far has been tremendous. And then we're going and applying that into all of the different ways that you can use messaging to build relationships, to build those long-term clients and customers, and to have a sustainable business that isn't subject to the whims of the internet or to the whims of Facebook or to the whims of Instagram or wherever it is that you're advertising or trying to get customers. When you have that strong relationship base with your tribe, for lack of a better word, then you're impervious to these other things. And that sets you up to take your business as big as you want to and help as many people as you possibly can.
And I think to Henry's point, when he says, in terms of the large elephant, the octopus of all the different writing, but I would imagine even when he breaks down some of the longer things, he might write it for 2 or 3 target audiences within the same piece. But when you're writing copy for a commercial or a web ad or something like that, do you have the flexibility to kind of blend avatars and say, hey, you know what I mean? You could do a little of this and a little of that, or you pretty much have to stick to one. I know we joke all the time about the word target, but one focused audience.
I would much rather put in double the work and write 2 pieces for 2 audiences.
Oh, great!
Than try to mash up 2 audiences in one sales page.
Okay.
In my experience from all of the testing that I've done over the past 10 years, that fails almost every time. And I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm sure there's a copywriter out there who would be like, oh no, I write to 17 audiences in the same page and I make $1 million every 12 minutes or whatever. But for me, it doesn't work. And for my clients, it doesn't work. So I definitely say each piece needs to be directed toward a specific person, because the more specifically you talk to them, the more you can hone in on what they're thinking and what they're feeling, the stronger they're going to feel that sense of relationship with you through what you're writing.
And when you say that, Lee, it makes me think, when you have feedback from other people that say, oh, it's just been great, the copy you've written, or it really performed, or thank you so much for how it changed my life, that's got to be another great feeling, right? Because you get the copy, you get the feedback on how the particular piece works, but then to have the individual go, this really was helpful, this helped me launch my career, or launch a particular product, or help me, just kind of qualify my brand in the eyes of the world, that's got to be a great feeling as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's the best feeling in the world, and it's what makes me so passionate about what I do. And I got to tell you, Henry, I mean, like you said, I've been doing this for 10 years, and for about 6 of those, I was pretty daggone mediocre. And that had a lot to do with, I learned what everybody else learns. It's like these experts are telling people, look, you can make money fast as a copywriter by using, here, just take this template, just take a few details from your client, fill in this template like the old Mad Libs from the 80s, if any of you remember those. Just fill it in like you're filling a Mad Libs and hand it to the client, take their money, and go on to the next one. And, that's just what copywriters do. And, it's all about how much money you can make and how fast you can turn client projects around so that you can take on another one. And I got to the point where I was really, really unhappy with that. And it just became such a grind to even sit down and write copy, because it was just all about what am I getting out of it. And when I made that transition and said, okay, if I'm going to continue to do this, I'm going to feel good about it. And the way that I'm going to feel good about it is to see how good of a job I can do for my clients, what kind of results I can get them, what kind of transformations I can help them achieve through building their businesses and getting loyal clients and customers so that they don't have to spend all their time and their money out chasing people down all the time to try to keep their pipeline full.
And I would think that probably has to help in terms of client retention, because people can sense the difference. I would think people can tell that you're investing a lot of time and energy in their particular their particular vision, their particular piece of copy, and that has to help separate the professionals in the copywriting business from all the wannabes, all the posers, I guess you could call them. And then
I'd say that's accurate.
Okay, what are some of the other things? And I promised we wouldn't hold you past. We wouldn't hold you past the top of the hour, but maybe if I could ask you to stay about 5 more minutes. Also, let people know 833-462-3968, 833-GO-BE-YOU. Patricia says, how can you appeal to several audiences with one message? I think a laser focus gets us to our target audiences, and the success is reaching those who need your product. Not those who you think, Patricia, we were just talking about this the other day, not those you think can use your product, but Lee, when you write, it's to the ears of the people that you believe can really use, that product is really going to benefit their life in some way.
Exactly. I mean, and again, if you're listening to what they're saying on social media or wherever, in person, if you're lucky enough to be able to eavesdrop on the specific people that you want as your audience, the closer you listen, the more you're going to hear exactly what they want. And I'll be honest with you, there's times I've ripped phrases directly from something that I've seen somebody complain about on social media and used it in a headline that's just worked like gangbusters, because you already know what you don't have to figure out what to say to them. They'll tell you if you listen.
Sure.
And most copywriters that I have seen struggle with actually listening, because they just go, okay, well, I know what they want. I know what they want to hear. And they just sit down and write. And to me, that's not the right way to go about it. I feel like it's not adequately serving the clients and getting them the results and the transformations that they need.
So, it's interesting, because when you say that, it makes me think that there are some out there in terms of doing the copywriting that just think they know it all, and it's beneath them to actually have to listen in terms of what it is, right? Like, I'm fascinated when you say, when you go over to YouTube, or, that you spend some time looking at people's critiques online of different things and how important that is. All right, let's take a quick call.
Okay.
Good evening. Welcome to All Natural Being. Who do we have with us?
My name is Jeff Elder.
Hey, Jeff, how are you? Thank you for the great comments in the thread earlier. I super appreciate your input.
Oh, no, my pleasure. Yeah. Hey, I don't know if I'm behind on the video or not. Are you guys still doing, is Lee still on the call?
He is. Yes, sir. You can say hello to Lee.
Yes, I'm here.
Hey,
Jeff.
Sorry, there's a delay. Hey, I hope I don't embarrass Lee, but I just have to brag on him a little bit. I met Lee a few months ago, and when he and I first met, we just hit it right off the bat, because, I deal with a lot of copywriters, and I have yet to find anybody like Lee who nails it. I mean, he's all about his audience. Is all about writing copy that speaks to them, and I don't know. I have not met anybody like him when it comes to copy. And like I said, I've dealt with a lot of copywriters before, and so I have a lot of respect for you, Lee, and I really think that you have a passion, and what you do really moves people with how you write and how you really get. I love the story about you drinking the apple cider. Like,
isn't that a great story, Jeff?
I love it, but I think that's a great picture of his dedication to really understand the people that he's helping his clients to reach. And so, it's been good knowing you, Lee. It's just been a pleasure, and man, I just respect you a lot as a copywriter, and I love reading your stuff on Facebook. It makes me laugh, and so I just wanted to brag on you a little bit. I hope I'm not embarrassing you too much.
No, thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Jeff. No, I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you, and likewise, you're wonderful to get to know, and I appreciate everything that you do. And you're right. I mean, I've definitely, we're both unique individuals. My mom used to tell me that when they made me, they broke the mold, and then they beat the snot out of the mold maker. So
And Jeff, when you made a couple of comments earlier in the thread about putting something in people's shoes, and then you said he makes you laugh and this and that. And when I first met Lee, I think what escapes some people when it comes to thinking about copywriting is they don't realize how funny you can be, Lee. Right? I think when they think of copy, they go, "Oh, it's very serious." You know what I mean? Robert Ogilvy kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, it's got to be this or that. But you have a really, at times, sarcastic, always caustic. You have a great wit and about you, and you'll say things that just makes me chuckle. So, how important is it in terms of your copy? As Jeff was saying, how important is it in your copy to think about making the reader laugh?
Oh, it's to me, it's very important. But that's why I select the clients that I do. I work primarily with coaches and consultants and artists and authors who are maybe a little off the rocker. And that they let me do that. I mean, I've got a few clients in particular that they just, I'm like, hey, every time, is there anything particularly? No, I trust you, Lee. Just go do whatever the heck you was. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. and those are the ones that I really love because I could just really just go as far out there as I want and just go, okay, as long as it works, then who cares? And I love to have fun with it. But that's also why, when I get someone that emails me and they say, okay, I've got this corporation and I want to, sell the latest and greatest whatever for corporate. No. If it's corporate speak, I'm not having anything to do with it because you can't be funny that way.
Sure.
What fun is that?
And Jeff, what would you think about that? Would you agree that it's a part to have that inner comedian come out? And I would love it for Dana when she gets a chance to call in and tell us about being a stand-up comedian. But do you think, Jeff, that's important? Is that one of the many tools that Lee brings to the table?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so my biggest thing is authenticity, right? And I think a lot of copy is so unauthentic and so fake, and people can see right through it. But the copy that really speaks is the copy that makes that connection. And who of us doesn't like to laugh?
Right.
Who doesn't like that good joke? Or who doesn't like to, take a hard situation or a hard topic and bring a little bit of lightness to it? And I think humor is a great way to do that. And I think Lee does a great job of that balance between his thought-provoking content that I've read versus just flat out. I mean, there's been stuff I've read on Facebook, Lee, that I literally have laughed out loud. And, so you bring such a great balance to that. And yeah, I think it's critical today that copy needs to be authentic, and I think adding humor to it is definitely a way to do that.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much. And before you go, if you have a link, if there's something that you do, a brand or a business or something that you're passionate about, please make sure you put your link here in the feed. And again, thank you for calling in, and thank you for the really insightful posts here in the thread, because you're right. To use the words they use, not the words that we tend to put in their mouths for them. So thank you very much, Lee. I really appreciate your call and all the cool comments in the thread as well. So please make sure you put up a link if you have one.
Thank you, guys. Bye, Lee.
Bye, Jeff. Thank you.
All right, 833-462-3968, 833-GO-BE-YOU. Dana, this is the first time, if you don't mind, Lee, I'm going to call out and ask if there's still someone here in the thread that I would love to have call in. If Dana's still here in the thread, because as a stand-up comedian, she has to deal with this stuff in a very up-close, and I hate to be cliche, but a very up-close and personal way. Right, Lee? So if Dana is still listening, please give us a call, 833-462-3968. It's toll free, 833-GO-BE-YOU. So Lee, as Jeff was saying, he thinks it's important that you blend a little bit of creativity. I have to tell you, I watched a video of you on YouTube not too long ago where you literally, it was so stunning to you what had been said. you put your head in your own hands and almost pushed your hat off. You right? Like you were trying to control your brain from exploding, given something that had been said to you. It's great. You just have great timing.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, no, I think I was complaining about Rick Astley at that point. I tend to do that a lot.
No,
Somebody's got to bust him up,
There you go. What other things, Lee? And we're coming up on the hour, so I promised that I wouldn't hold you. And I know you've got a big trip coming up here before too long. But talk to me quickly about Sales Copy Academy. What are some of the short things? And then also, I would like to announce that Lee and Sales Copy Academy are responsible for the clocks that you see here at All Natural Being, the countdown clocks for our big 24-hour event. That's all thanks to Sales Copy Academy, Lee and his staff over there. So, Lee, let me personally thank you very much for being our official time sponsor. Thank you for that. And then what can you tell us about Sales Copy Academy? I know that tonight is the kickoff night. From now on, we're going to do LEEWords Wednesdays, where Lee's going to come on. And if you're thinking about becoming a copywriter, or there's something that you're working on that really stumps you, you'll be able to call in, and then Lee will just kind of help massage whatever sentence you're working on, whatever phrase, we'll just kind of massage it together. So those are the three things that I wanted to make mention. Thank you again for the clock. Get you to quickly talk about Sales Copy Academy, and also that we'll be hanging out Wednesdays from now on, LEEWords Wednesdays. Lee?
Well, first of all, I love the clocks. They turned out fantastic.
Thank you, brother.
They were great, and I'm very, very happy and humbled to be a part of it.
Thank you.
As far as Sales Copy Academy, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be introducing a lesson a month.
Okay.
Because I know that a lot of people out there who are wanting to be copywriters and coaches and consultants who want to write their own copy or write it better don't have a ton of time to put into this, because one of the things I hear is that people tell me, look, it takes years to be able to do this. It takes years to be able to write this thing. I don't know if I can do it. Look, you don't have to be Hemingway. This is not what this is about. I mean, look at what Gary Vee puts out. Look at what Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss, the 4-Hour Workweek guy, Wayne Dyer. All of these people have such incredible styles that aren't literary and are just very conversational and basic. In terms of they don't use 20-letter words. They don't use language that tries to make them feel like they're in an ivory tower or so much more important or intelligent than everybody else. They're talking in everyday language. And that, for a lot of copywriters, is the challenge. But it's also the reward, because when you're doing that, you're speaking directly in a relationship sense with the person that's perfect for you to work with. So through Sales Copy Academy, we're diving into the avatar immersion method.
Cool.
We're going to take a deep dive into that in the first month. We go into the beginner's mind method. We spend a month on that. And then we'll tackle applying those principles to specific kinds of copy that you can use to build your business. And we do that through what we call in the marketing world funnels, to where you're, where this is how it goes from hi, nice to meet you to, yes, I'll buy your $10,000 mastermind program. Or your whatever your biggest deal is a funnel. And all throughout that, there are opportunities to use your messaging to strengthen those relationships and to help them feel like they know you on a personal level, so that they trust you enough to buy, they trust you enough to keep coming back, and they trust you enough to refer their friends, their neighbors, their coworkers, their Aunt Susan, whoever.
Sure.
And that's what this is. That's what this whole program is really about. It's about writing impeccable copy that develops relationships. And that's just an important skill to have no matter what kind of business you're in, but especially if you're one of the brandpreneurs, the coaches and consultants and artists and so on.
And then, Lee, talk a little bit about coming up, hanging out with us every Wednesday. We may not be able to do it next Wednesday because I know you have you have some other things planned for that Wednesday evening. But I want to talk about LEEWords Wednesdays, because I think it's really going to be cool, and people that might, it might be just coming up against the block and they go, oh, I wish I could just massage this sentence or this tagline or this phrase or whatever. And you very graciously agreed for people to be able to call in Wednesdays, and we'll kind of whiteboard it out and see what comes of it. So talk for a minute quickly about that.
It's one of my absolute favorite things to do is to come up with short things, taglines, paragraphs, about me pages, and to find out how you can develop that relationship better through that copy. So, yeah, I mean, before the show or even during the show, we can take those pieces of copy that you've been struggling with that you're just like, gosh, I just don't feel like I can get the words right, or I don't feel like this is making the right impact.
Sure.
Give us those, and we'll take a look at it. We'll pick it apart. We'll put it back together, and we'll make it work. We'll make it create that connection, that value, that interest that moves the needle for you and your business.
And you know what that makes me think, Lee? I heard an interview not too long ago with Adam Sandler. It may have been on Howard Stern. I don't remember where it was, but Adam Sandler was talking about, and I guess it happens a lot, Dana would know, but he's talking about where he'll have four or five guys and girls over to the house, and they'll work on the comedy, and then he gives them all a Rolex or a car or whatever else for helping him. But even comedy at someone at that level, Seinfeld, Chris Rock, and the like, they have groups and they're friends. They get together and they try to work these bits. They write these pieces, and then, they do it for the cost of a lunch, or they do it for, I remember Colin Quinn said, well, I didn't take the car from Adam Sandler because I'd lived in New York City and I didn't want to get stuck with the parking bill. Right? So nice. I think he took a watch and a year's worth of dinner somewhere. But even at that level, for some of these comedians, it's a group effort. And that's why I'm so excited about LEEWords Wednesdays, because it could be a group effort here as well, where someone could call in and go, well, what do you think about this? And, like I said, we kind of massage it around and it goes where it goes.
Absolutely. And you're right. It doesn't matter, on any level. There are definitely times when I will write a piece of copy and I will form it up to take it to somebody that I've worked with before and just say, hey, what do you think of this?
Sure.
And, usually because that's because I've got a nagging sense in the back of my head that something's just not quite right. And, that's why, copywriters have copywriting coaches. That's
sure.
why, that's why doctors have doctors. That's why therapists have therapists.
Sure. I was thinking about that therapist too, right? I remember a therapist one time said, no, I block out 2 hours Friday afternoon. And I said, well, why do you do that? And she said, well, that's when I go see my therapist. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking to myself, haven't you cornered the market on knowing how the human mind works? What do you need a therapist for? And she said, to be honest with you, I need to deprogram. I need to hear if my ideas are working. I need to hear if my thoughts have merit to them. So I would imagine it's the same. And that's why I'm so excited about LEEWords Wednesdays, because we can act like that. We can perform like that here in the feed. So thank you very much for agreeing to do that. And also, before I let you go, Copy That Speaks, that's going to be a podcast. I'm really excited about that, because I think if more people get to hear you and get to see you, and as Jeff said, and as Henry said, and Patricia said, get to see some of the comedy, some of the passion that goes into what you do, I think they're just going to dig it. So the new podcast is going to be coming out here in a few weeks called Copy That Speaks. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, something happened to my microphone. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Hey, listen, I had the baby walk on.
So.
I had the baby walk in on the set, so not to worry at all.
Yeah, it's been one of these things. I think my neighbor out back fired up the mower just when we started running here, so it's always something, So okay, so yeah, no, Copy It Speaks. We're going to be just hitting on all the topics that make messaging sing and that make messaging work, and we're really talking about individualizing it and looking at each piece as an organic piece that we can grow into something powerful. And that's what I love to do. And in a way, it's as you say, it's almost like a community. And also that's something we're going to be doing in Sales Copy Academy too. There's going to be a community of people so that you can have those sort of round tables. And when you're stuck on something, to be able to get opinions and, without going into the copywriting groups where everybody's doing all the chest beating and going,
Sure.
I know best, and I know this and that. And so, copy that speaks is really an extension of that. It's copy without all the pomposity, without all the arrogance, because we copywriters can be some narcissistic jerks sometimes. But, to take that out of there and to eliminate the fear.
Sure.
That's what I do, because one of the things that I struggle with sometimes is people don't want to show me what they've written because they're afraid that I'm going to look at it and go, okay, no, this is terrible. I write some crap sometimes.
Sure.
I wrote some absolute junk sometimes, but it happens.
Well, watch the show. Yeah, you don't have to wonder about whether I put crap out. Just watch the show from time to time. But I can remember that people say, well, Mozart or Beethoven or any of the prolific, in terms of classical music, any of the composers that are really popular today, we know about 1/100th of what they wrote. Some of them wrote thousands and thousands of scores. And the ones that we remember are the ones that really worked. But I would imagine you'd go back in time and interview them, and they would say, well, I wouldn't trade all my failures for anything. I wouldn't trade all my crap for anything. I wouldn't trade any of that, because in getting through that and sifting through that, it made me a better musician, a better copywriter, a better athlete, right? So I think in terms of unleashing your legendary, copy that speaks, it just gives permission to the listener to go, yeah, you know what? I always don't bring my A game, but I'm always willing to learn to bring my A game. And I think that's what the podcast will be all about.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And, I do want to qualify for you out there that I really dislike the word expert. I do have that word used in relation to what I do sometimes. And to me, you're always learning.
Sure.
You're never going to be, even at the 10,000 hours, whether they say you have to be 10,000 hours of practice to be an expert or something. I don't even think that that's true. I think that if you ever get to the point where you feel like there's nothing left to learn, then you're doing something wrong.
Well, I would also say to you, though, like when you say it doesn't take, and I think it was Malcolm Gladwell, I think probably was one of the ones that if he didn't come up with the idea, he made it popular about, it takes 10,000 hours in order to perfect something. But then, it's one of the things I dig about Henry Noel. You listen to Henry, it just comes to him naturally. Right? So here's someone, and the reason that I bring it up is if you're channeling your wild at the core, if you're putting your primal scream right on the front of your lips, if you're putting your heart's highest priority top of your list, I think it allows that 10,000 hours to shrink in terms of time, because you're being authentic, you're being real, you're being human. And I think that counts for a lot of hours of study. What do you think, Lee?
Absolutely. It's impossible to manufacture empathy.
Okay.
Which again is what we're coming back to, is truly having that understanding. And that's just not something that you can create synthetically. There's no hack, there's no headline, there's formula, there's no formula in any way that can allow you to approximate that closely enough to get away with it in the long term.
Sure. No swipe files.
As you say, no swipe. Yeah, no
swipe
files. Swipe files. They're going to make you $1 million by this time tomorrow morning.
By tomorrow morning. Oh, go! I got to get
your coffee.
Yeah, I got to get me a couple of them. Right. Mm-hmm. Candace says here in the thread, it just flows out of Henry, and that's why I think people are drawn. He's got transitional radio over on YouTube now, and I think as people listen to him, they go, It does. That's a great way to put it, Candace. It just flows out of him. Let me also say good evening to John. John, thank you for joining us here at All Natural Being. So, Lee, closing thoughts, then I promise I'll let you go. Closing thoughts on what you're going to be working on in the days and weeks ahead, so that listeners like Jeff and some other people that are meeting you for the first time, and for people that have known you forever, how they're going to be able to get involved with you in a more substantial way in the days, as I said, in the days, the weeks, and the months ahead.
Okay. Well, the main focus right now is developing Sales Copy Academy out and creating that community inside of it to have a place where you can learn and not feel like you're constantly being judged, and to get the training that you need and that you want without having to invest a heck of a lot of time in it. Like you say, we're going to cover one topic a month. So if you have a half hour a day or, an hour 3 days a week, then you can still make that tremendous progress. And you can be able to create that relationship-based copy without sinking all your time into it. I mean, I've taken certification courses before that have taken up 10, 15, 20 hours of my week. It's like, okay, well, how am I supposed to do this and
live?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Breathe, shower, this
tell the neighbor to knock off the cutting the grass at 9:30 at night or 8:30 at night. Yeah. How are you supposed to do that?
Mowing by moonlight. I don't know. Why
Mowing by moonlight.
That's
great.
Right.
That's
so
great. Thank
doing.
God it's almost a full moon out. He can see or she can see what they're doing. Can you imagine if it's a crescent moon? And you're having a hard thing, like there are headlamps out there. Who knows? Maybe they got a tough gig during the day. Maybe this is the only time they can cut. Who knows? But, Lee, I'll give you the final thoughts.
Yep. All right. Well, if you have any interest at all in being able to create that sort of relationship-based messaging, whether you've started a business or whether you're thinking about it, wherever you're in the stage, let's go to the waitlist is available at salescopyacademy.com. Right now we're just keeping everybody posted who signs up on the wait list, and we've got some special things that we're going to be giving away to the people who get on the wait list when we actually open it. So we do some cool things there that the rank and files that come in afterward aren't going to get. So
very cool.
salescopyacademy.com. That way we can give you the VIP treatment. Also, Sales Copy Academy on Facebook, and we're expanding into Instagram. Where I should say I'm being dragged, kicking and screaming into Instagram because it's not my thing. But we're learning how to do that, because if I can provide more value that way to the people who need this, then that's what I'm going to do.
And that's what I love about you, Lee. Is that it always comes back to that. It's, can you provide value? And so you're going to find these other avenues, not because they're sales channels. You're going to find these other avenues because you believe that what you're doing will be beneficial to the people that it's supposed to be beneficial to. Not everyone is going to be a copywriter, right? This isn't going to be for everyone. But I've always admired that about you, that it really is, you have a passion for helping people that have a passion about communicating with words. And as I say, you're an artist with the alphabet. So thank you for joining us this evening. Sorry I was running a couple minutes late. And thank you for being the official time sponsor of our little 24-hour gig. Oh, and I'll let people know that 12 hours in, the halfway point where our clock will go from 24 to 12 hours, Lee will be calling in and spending the hour with us as a part, or some part of the hour, at least we'll see what Lee's up to, but spending some part of the hour with us in the 24-hour marathon. So, Lee, thank you again very much for that.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you soon. Good night, brother.
Great. Thanks.
All right. So we are getting ready to wind down. Thank you, Wayne, very much. SalesCopyAcademy.com. Thank you, Wayne. And I also say, it made me think of you, Wayne, when Lee said, "Oh, I'm being dragged kicking and screaming in Instagram." Wayne sure knows what that's like when he has to put up with me every day. So thank you, Wayne, for all of your technical expertise. This has been episode 299. I'm so glad that Jenny was here on board. I've got to tell you, we're going to take a few days off to get ready for our 24-hour marathon, but the 300th episode coming up on Sunday morning, the very first person to give me a shot, the very first person to set this up so that I'd ever, and this was long before the brain tumor, the very first person that ever set this up so that I would have the opportunity to even be looking at show number 10, let alone show number 300, was Jenny, and she was here in the feed tonight. So a really heartfelt thank you to Jenny. And she's agreed to help in the opening hour. She's going to be hanging out with me for a little bit. But I just wanted to call out to Jenny, because had she not introduced me to Matt and the good folks at IPMNation.com, I probably wouldn't be doing this now. I'd be harassing somebody else other than radio personalities at local, Christian radio stations. I'd be doing something else. So, Jenny, thank you so very much. All right, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. We will not be doing a show for the next 3 days, as I say, to get ready, get everything ramped up and ready to go for Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We will kick off the 300th episode of All Natural Being. So thank you all so very much. Lee reminded me earlier today, he goes, you know what? If you're number one, you don't have to say you're number one. So I you know what? I'm not going to listen. The number one rated show on IPMNation.com. We would not be number one if it weren't for you all. There's so many people, and I'll spend the final hour of the 24 hours thanking those people individually. There's so many people that I need to thank that have just helped me along the way. People that have stuck with me through, I was nuts long before they found the brain tumor. Who are we kidding? But people that have stuck with me throughout, in the aftermath, and I'm not an easy guy to deal with. I wasn't an easy guy to deal with before 3 traumatic brain injuries. But a special thank you to all the people that have made it possible for me to be doing episode 300. All right, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Until Sunday morning, go be you. Thank you all so very much for joining us here at All Natural Being.
IPMNation.com.